Oh, Hilton, stay. Your beds are soft and cozy. No lumpy couch, no stiff futon, no shower line at crack of dawn. Oh, Hilton, stay. Oh, Hilton, stay.
When you want holiday comfort you can count on, it matters where you stay. Enjoy comfortable rooms and friendly service when you stay with Hilton instead. Save up to 25% this season when you book with Hilton. Hilton for the stay. Terms apply.
Every Who down in Who Newville liked the holidays a ton. But where to get great prices on gifts, they had no idea. None. They searched and they searched for great gifts under $25. Gifts for spouses and friends and even their toddlers. When suddenly one Who shouted, Walmart has what you want, knowing they have Lego, Tree Hut, and low prices to flaunt. So they enjoy the holiday season as Who's often do. Cheering and shouting, Walmart has incredible gifts. Who knew? Find gifts they'll love under $25 at Walmart.
The Freddy Fazbear box just dropped at Popeyes for $7.99, and it's scary good. Garlic palm tenders and cheesy bites with marinara sauce. Upgrade to the deluxe box for $12.99 and get a 20-ounce drink in a cupcake cup. Dig in
before it's too late.
Try the Freddy Fazbear Crunch menu, now at Popeyes. See Five Nights at Freddy's 2, only in theaters. Love that chicken from Popeyes. Limited time at participating U.S. restaurants. Prices may vary.
Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Heart. This is the show where we talk with professional wrestlers and professional wrestling personalities about their lives in and outside of the ring, as well as doing acts of charity work, community service, volunteering, and spreading positivity. We're always about the positive vibes here on the show. And with me right now, I've got a very special guest. He has worked for WCW and has made some appearances with the WWE. I'm pleased to welcome the one and only Scott Vick. Welcome, Scott, to Wrestling with Heart.
Hey, great, man. Thanks. Good to be here.
All right. It's my pleasure. So talk to me about your childhood. Where did you grow up?
I was born in Charlotte, right in the mecca of NWA, Crockett Promotions. And then mainly between there, had a lot of family there. I was in Columbia, South Carolina for a good portion of my childhood and split time between there and Hilton Head, and eventually moved down to Hilton Head, South Carolina to start high school.
So Carolinas, growing up, I'd imagine you'd watch a lot of wrestling growing up.
Tons, all NWA, all Mid-Atlantic. I'm through and through was a Magnum TA, Tully Blanchard, Arn and Ole Anderson, Flair, Wahoo McDaniel, Nikita Koloff. I mean, I can go on and on. You name it. Even Piper on his short stint.
So you were a Four Horsemen guy.
Four Horsemen, all of it. That was just obviously. I mean, so much of it at that time was so regional.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it just was more believable compared to WWF. Although WWF at the time, I think they had a lot more reality base to it than what it led to, like I think late like the late 80s, especially into the 90s. But there's just this realism to NWA that really attracted me to that more so than WWF. There were aspects of WWF that I liked. I mean, obviously that whole the early 80s, mid 80s, especially with the Rock and Wrestle with MTV that they did and the WrestleMania, and they had more realism at that time as opposed to later. And it was actually only even later years that I actually really started to really appreciate WWF more. But yeah, I mean, I love certain guys. Like I love the Rick Martells and Rick Rudes, Mr. Perfects. Those were guys I was really drawn to in WWF, like those early, especially when they started like the Saturday Night Main Event. I liked Hogan. Of course, everybody liked Hogan. I was never a Warrior guy. He just seemed corny to me. I mean, I respected what he did and his build and the way he looked, but the promos and his video, it just, I don't know. I just couldn't sink my teeth into it. Hogan, I believed Hogan.
Yeah, he was like a superhero, an icon.
Yeah, I mean, he was just bigger than life, larger than life. Not that Ultimate Warrior wasn't, but I know just all the snorting and the way weirdo out of like in outer space kind of videos he would shoot, that just wasn't mine. Like, I'm Dusty Rhodes, son of a plumber, and I'm buying that all day long. The Magnum TA and even with the I shouldn't say even with the Russians, but I thought Nikita Koloff and Ivan Koloff and Crusher Khrushchev, that those guys were Russians.
Well, it's a sense of disbelief. You're suspending your disbelief, and it's like these characters, you believe in them because you. It's like you said, it's realism. You believe that these characters, are talking to you, and you're getting into their characters, and so that period of time, man, it was crazy because you had, the foreign heels and then the good guys, the baby faces, and you wanted to see them collide, and it really made for some good television. Who were some individuals that you kind of idolized, and then at which point did you go, I kind of want to try this. I want to get into this business.
Like I had mentioned earlier, in WWF, I love watching Mr. Perfect, love watching Rick Rude. Rick Rude, I think, is one of the most just underrated heels of all time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, I like Kerry Von Erich in WWF, the run that he had. Now, of course, he was, in that later, in the that early '90s. So from there, and I mean, obviously Hogan had an influence in there, but for me, the guys were, I don't know. There's so many different ones you could look at. It's like, I was into working out. I was about, having to being big, and so from that aspect, it's like I love the Road Warriors, for their size, for their intensity. Love Nikita Koloff for that. And then you get into just the Dusties and the Flairs and obviously Arn Anderson and Tully and the way they talk and the promos that they shot were just unreal. But I like that. And then for another big guy and just overall, just the way he moved, worked in the ring, and his persona was Bruiser Brody.
Mm.
I wasn't, a Bruiser Brody size guy, but I wasn't far off. So I wasn't going to like pattern myself after him, but I loved what he did and that realism that he brought. It's like now I go back and watch now, and I watch the NWA stuff, and of course being in the business and now everybody knows the business. I still get like this feeling watching NWA of like, oh man, I get invested into it.
Yeah.
And in WWF old, I watch it more now for nostalgia, and there are still some, I got some tapes, some house show tapes from WWF, and it was, and there's some on those, there's some really good stuff on there where you're just like, yeah, that draws me in, to the match. And I got one with Tito and Rick Rude, and it was just, I mean, it was like the perfect match. Rude sold it perfect. They just told this unbelievable story, and that's what really drew me in. Like I said, the big character stuff just it didn't do it for me. I couldn't get into that. So in answering your question, the influences, they really varied. In terms of, there's some guys that did a lot of things really well, that other guys didn't. But it's like I admired everything that they did and brought to the table, maybe in different ways. The same thing, and obviously as I got a little bit older, once like Bret Hart came in there, he was another guy, especially during that time where WWF really started really getting gimmicky with the characters. Love to watch Bret work.
It's always good to have that variety, because everybody brings something different to the table. And At what age did you decide to go into the business and start training?
That was after football in college. I had always been interested and always watched wrestling, and um, uh, would go to house shows when they were in my area. Um, I don't know at an early age. I mean, I was so focused on baseball and football, basketball, but mainly baseball and football. And my dream was to go play in the NFL. And it was only I mean, where it really started to enter my mind was my sophomore year of high school. I went to a house show in Savannah, Georgia, and Gary Michael Capetta came up to us at ringside, and it was actually myself and Sean O'Hare. Sean and I were friends, went to high school together, and he had just at the time started getting into mixed martial arts, working out, and he came to the show, which was where I said Gary Michael Capetta introduced himself at intermission and said, "Hey, I'm just not a ring announcer. I'm also a talent scout for WCW. You ever thought about wrestling?" And I was like, I've always loved it. It's kind of been there, but I'm playing football. My goal is to go to the NFL. And he wanted to meet with us, and Sean really didn't care about it at the time. Like I said, he was just getting into that physical part of that stage of his life with the mixed martial arts and working out and things. And I met with him and we talked, and he had interest in, once we got out of high school, coming to Atlanta to train. And I was like, I appreciate it, but this is the direction I'm going. He said, "Well, if anything ever changes, you change your mind, here's my card, give me a call." And that led to me giving a call in college. Going into my junior year, I dislocated my knee, tore my ACL, MCL, PCL, and LCL, and that pretty much did it for my football career. I worked out for a little bit after that, and it wasn't going anywhere. So pulled out that card and called the number.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, when you're suffering an injury, playing in a sport that you love, having to, you know, make sacrifices, and it's sad, whenever you're doing something you love to do and you can't do it anymore, but you get this other thing that comes up, and you love it just as much, and you pursue it, and it's a different kind of physical work because it's more, you're using your body, but you're working with other people. But I'm sure, the physicality with football kind of, helped prepare you for the world of pro wrestling.
No, wrestling was much worse.
Well, how was it? How was it? How was it different?
No, I mean, football. Listen, football was tough, but you a lot of instances when you got hurt or you got injured, you had time to recover. And typically, once you get to college and NFL, you have games on Saturday, Sunday, so you got a week downtime before a game. Wrestling was every night, if not every night. I mean, it was 5, 6 nights a week. So, and two, I think it was just it's a different type of conditioning for one, and your body has to condition a different way. And coming out of football, I had been out of football for I was probably about a year before I started training. So, again, just like with football, if you had any time off, when you get back in, your body has to callous up to it and taking the hits, and it does. Wrestling was just it was, in terms of just initially right off the bat, it was the worst. It was hard. I mean, the first match I ever did, I thought I was going to die, and
Wow.
I'd been working and been in shape, and it's a different element because you're having to make it look like you're going 100%. And I mean, you're going 100% throwing your punches, throwing your kicks, but you're not really punching a guy. Or if you grab a hold, you got to tense everything up. So you're straining, you're flexing and that. And it's nonstop. I mean, with football, it's like you got X number of plays you're on the field for. You're on offense, defense. You come off, you get a rest. You can catch your breath. You can get oxygen. You can get hydrated. You can do all this. You go out and you work a match, and it's whether it's 4 minutes or 15, 20, an hour. It's just you and that guy.
A lot of wrestlers, some of them started out as football players. Your Rocks, your JBLs, your Ron Simmons. They made that transition, and you were able to transition from football to wrestling. You trained at the Powerplant, and I've talked with people on the show about being in that facility. It seemed it was very intense.
It was super, super intense. They not close to like dojos in Japan, but they modeled a lot of it after that. Like a lot of the old school trainers did, like the Ganyas, and that's a big name in terms of training schools, facilities that guys would go through. I think Flair went through there, and I mean there's a lot of others, but they modeled that after that, and it was and it wasn't like that every day. It was the initial, let's see if you got the guts to do this business, because their mentality was hey, everybody is sitting at home watching this on on TV, sitting on the sofa going, I want to be a part of this. And of course the business has started to change, because back then, I mean, you really had to know somebody. I'm not talking Powerplant, I'm talking pre-Powerplant, like the Ric Flair era and that, where they're having to search out like a Killer Kowalski or a Vern Gagne type training facility. They really had to search that out, or see somebody, and they recognize them and say, hey, you ought to come and train here. You ever thought about wrestling? WCW started doing that started doing commercials for that during their tape shows. So they were putting out a number, and they really opened it up to the public to come out and almost anybody could come and try out. Like I said, I had gotten Gary Michael Capetta's phone number, and when I called that number, he was no longer with the company, but they said, hey, come to Atlanta anyways. If he took time to talk to you, we want to see what he saw and see if there's something there. And so I was, me and my roommate that I played football with, he was super interested in it too. And that's, we really started that like when Nitro really started getting big right after the Mall of America deal. I think that's really where it started kind of settling in my head, of course, with the knee injury. And I'm sitting there, I'm just like, because it was so hot when all that happened. And of course I'm like, I'd kind of forgotten about the card that he had given me, and we're sitting there watching the show, and I'm just like, man, this is after a couple weeks, months, it's like, oh my, it just hit me. I had this interaction with this guy. I don't know if this is going to be any good anymore. I've got this number. Let's call it and see what happens and see where it goes. And so they were like, well, come to Atlanta, and we'll want to put you through, a workout, see what your athletic ability is, and talk to you. And that's what we did. And they said, unfortunately, we can't offer you a contract. At that time, this was the summer of '96, and the Olympics were in Atlanta, and WCW had moved their whole base of operation out of Atlanta to Orlando for the summer. And they were like, well, we strongly suggest you go through the Powerplant and do this workout. So we went through that 3 days. It was the worst 3 days I've ever experienced in my entire life.
Sounds pretty brutal.
The workout was, I mean, that workout we had, I think there was probably that I was a part of, there was maybe 20 guys in there to start. And within 20 minutes or so, we were down to four of us, because I think 4 of us made it. Matt Weesey, who went on to be Horseshoe, and what was he in WWF?
Luther Reigns.
He was in that. His roommate made it through. My roommate that came with me to Atlanta, he made it through, and I think that's it. I think there's 4 of us that lasted throughout the whole thing. Maybe one other guy. I can't remember. It was just nonstop air squats. Just that if you don't go, you got to go certain depth. If you don't go certain depth, you're getting fussed at. And then it would be just push-ups and then crunches and then squats. And we would just do that for like 30 minutes. And then they'd take you out to run. And it was on an incline, which was awesome. And your legs are just like jello. Because, I mean, no matter how much you work out, because there were guys that were in there that looked like, $10 million on the outside. And within like 15 minutes of air squat, they were like tapping out. So it was interesting dichotomy of guys that were coming in there, because there were some guys you'd look at and go, there's no way this guy's going to make it through this. And he was the best out of everybody, and then you have guys that look the way they do, all just super lean, like 6% body fat and just unbelievable physiques. A lot of those guys were the first to like drop out, and it was 3 days of that. And I mean, I think we did two or three. I think it was like 2 or 3 hours in the morning, and then had like an hour break, and then did another 2 hours or 3 hours in the afternoon. Now the second part was a little bit easier, just a little bit. Because the bulk of the air squats and the running and the push-ups and the ring stuff was at the first part of the day, and then we still did some of the air squats, but then we start getting in and getting in the ring, and just they start teaching you some basic bumps and how to do some drills and agility stuff with the ring. And then we would also amateur wrestle too, so you were like blown up, just dragging, and now you're having to amateur wrestle, and there was no rounds, no time. It was you just went until somebody pinned somebody or somebody tapped out.
Yeah, it seems like they really put you through the ringer.
They did. They really wanted to weed out guys that didn't have the heart, and they did a really good job of doing that.
Now, any pieces of advice you got from mentors or people that kind of help guide you along through the training process, any pieces of advice that they gave to you, instilled in you, that you still apply to today all these years later?
I wish. I didn't get a lot. The business had so much changed even at that time. You really didn't have territories. A lot of the territories had dried up. And then my process through the business had accelerated so quickly compared to other guys. I didn't get out and do a lot of I hardly did. I think I did 1 or 2 independent shows before I even got in the flock. But it just accelerated so quickly, just because I picked things up really quick. It was really natural for me. And guys saw that down there, like Chris Canyon, who probably the biggest mentor I had at the time. Just saw that in me and was like, hey, you need to come work with us, because he was there at the Powerplant working with Ray Lloyd, who was Glacier, and Brian Clark, who was Wrath. They were working on the whole Mortal Kombat Glacier gimmick. And I started working with those guys. Billy Kidman was part of that. And because they were all friends. So I went down and I literally left. I want to say within maybe 2 or 3 weeks of being there, I was getting some training from Dwayne Bruce, Sarge, Pez Wiley, and Mike Winter. And then everything else I learned from Chris Canyon and Brian Clark and Ray Lloyd and Kidman. And then eventually went on to be, DDP, because they were all, I guess they were all really good friends, and they were really tight, and I kind of got introduced into that group through Chris. But even with Chris, it was like, that whole training, we just met and trained, and we would do matches at the power plant. And it really wasn't long before, that's when Raven got signed, and Rave was looking for undiscovered guys, really. And Chris was like, man, you'll be perfect for the flock. He's exactly what, you're exactly what he's looking for. And it's like, I was on this super accelerated express, just right into TV. And it's like, I really got no guidance in terms of, here's the do's and don'ts you do in the business. I mean, I got the very basic outline, like, when you shake hands with guys, you don't want to shake too hard. They'll take it as you're stiff. So you got to do kind of like a girly shake, which I thought was just ridiculous. But it was always, hey, be courteous of all the veteran guys, which obviously I would have just naturally done anyways. But it was that, always say hey to everybody in the building. That's really the only guidance and mentorship I really got. I had to just kind of learn. It was like trial by fire for me. Because I just got thrust in it so quick, because, I was 25 when I started, and there were guys, in their 30s that hadn't gotten a TV spot like I did, or even just a spot that we were in with Raven, that have been, they've been working for, 10, 15 years.
Yeah,
and in some cases, some guys even longer.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you had to learn, how to really like you had to really like learn the basics on like how to locker room etiquette. Seems like you had to learn a lot of locker room etiquette, how to be around the guys in the locker room, and interactions, and try to do what you can to get along with everyone. And so, yeah, you were talking about Raven and the flock. What was it like being a part of that group?
Oh, it was a great platform for somebody that green, just getting a start in the business. It was a great platform, but it was also at times frustrating, because there was just not a lot of real guidance on it in terms of, where to go, what we're doing. Obviously, it's Raven's flock, so it's Raven's character. It's about really promoting Raven and getting him over. And that was fine. I knew my role. I was just, I don't want to say I was that guy that's just happy to be there. But I knew enough of the business that I was very grateful for the position that I was in. And I know it's not about me right now. This is a chance for me to get myself out there, get noticed. And I had no idea at the time, we were going to be doing, every TV. We were in every live TV. We did every Nitro, every Thunder. We were involved in some form or fashion, almost every pay-per-view. So we got more TV time than, other than NWO, we were the next guys in line that got the most TV time. So, and at the time when I got it, I had no idea that it was going to be that. But yeah, it was a great platform. A bit of a learning process, because, like I said, I was having to learn on the go, just on so many different aspects of the business. I mean, even as simple stuff. I was working early in the flock. I worked the Renegade for a Saturday night taping, and in that match, he did, like, I think the back springboard, the back flips into like the elbow, and I was gonna have actually Billy Kibben ran down and was gonna pull me out of the corner. And that was going to have him miss and cause him to lose the match. Well, I didn't smarten anybody up to that. So it's like, I remember getting in the back and Terry Taylor going, if you're going to do that stuff, you got to let us know so we can tell the camera guys, hey, make sure, Kidman's coming out. When you see the, the spot right before the back flip elbow, be cognizant that Kidman's going to run out and pull Sick Boy out of the corner. I was simple stuff like that. Like nobody, I didn't know. Same thing when I showed up with a suit on for my character and with the fly. Not a lot of people know this because there's only one time I did it, and it was on a Thunder, and I was trying to develop the character further. And I had gone to Raven and said, "Hey, I want to take this character like a Sybil type character, somebody with multiple personalities." And I'll go through phases where I'm like, in my normal flock gear and I'm grunge, or I'll go through phases where I'm in a coat, suit and tie, have normal wrestling gear on, be more professional. And he loved it and thought that was great and was like, "Yeah, do it. That'll be great." So I get a suit, do all that, get out there, and I'm thinking this is going to be great. And get in the back, and again, Terry, I got a lot of heat in the back. They were like, "You got to tell somebody when you do this stuff." Nobody's like, we were wondering what the hell is he doing out there with a suit on? Like I'm out of character, because I think it was just Raven was doing an interview, and he was sitting in the turnbuckle down on the ring, and I was sitting right next to him, or standing next to him on the floor.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just
speaking into the void?
But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Yeah, they had no idea. And he was like, you got to let people, one, you got to get this okayed. And in my mind, I'm going, well, everything I've ever okayed has only been through Raven. Now, again, this is just my nativity and my greenness coming out, where I didn't know these things. I didn't know the protocol. And I'm thinking, oh, well, Raven's everything we go to, or we ask that we can and can't do, it's all gone through Rave. So I thought, hey, this is good. We're good. But yeah, it wasn't.
I'm sure Raven gave you some advice as well when starting out, and helped kind of guide you along as well. What was it like working alongside Raven?
In learning, I mean, obviously the biggest things I always paid attention to him was when he would lay out matches, because the psychology was up there with anybody. I mean, Jake the Snake Roberts and other guys like that. He had a great mind for it. I mean, my gosh, Vince made him a producer at like 20 years old or something like that, or wanted to, and he didn't want to do. I think he did it for a little bit or something. And then I think he left because of that. I think had a hand in him leaving at the time. Because he was doing the Johnny Polo, and then also he was like a producer agent for them, and he wanted to work. He had a great mind for the business, so it was interesting to sit and learn from him in terms of how you lay out matches and structure them, especially with like run-ins. Because I thought the way we did them was really unique in terms of just, it was such a timing thing with us. A lot of run-ins, you would have like 3 or 4 guys just come in at once, and it was like a big melee. We did it one at a time. And, whoever we were working with, a lot of those guys that we did stuff with, like Malenko, Goldberg, Page, Benoit, everything that we did on these run-ins, it was all very synchronized and timed on who went in at certain spots. And I to me, watching it, I thought it made it more interesting, because, oh, this guy's going to get him. Nope, he didn't. Oh, this guy's going to. Nope, he didn't. Oh, well, this guy, he's not going to get him. Yep, he got him.
Very strategic.
So, yeah, it's very strategic, very laid out, and I think it made run-ins more interesting. So all those things I really liked listening to him lay those things out and get his reasoning on, hey, we want to do this there's the reason we're doing this, or there's a reason I'm doing this. And even hearing the other side of it, where he didn't agree with the office a lot of times, not a lot of times, but sometimes on stuff that they wanted to do. And when you hear him laying it out, it's like, yeah, I don't get that either. But both sides have their stories, and everybody's trying to jockey for whatever they can jockey for. But yeah, it was great being able to pick his brain on those types of things with matches and how they should go, shouldn't do, or hey, you think I should do that? And it's like, no, don't do this. Do this instead. And be like, why? Well, here's why. You're trying to build to this later. Don't give them the kitchen sink now, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you talk about like in-ring psychology, and it's almost like there's like an out of the ring psychology as well, as far as why you're doing this instead of that. And you really have to build upon something that's going to make sense. So you're doing the run-ins and why you're doing the run-ins, it just builds and adds to the story.
Yeah. Yeah, just another example. I know one time, right, I think it was not long after the flock split up, but we hadn't completely gone our separate ways, or we may have, I'm not sure, but I know the match never happened, but it was one of the matches they flew me out for, and I ended up and just flew back home and didn't do anything. And that happened multiple times, but they were going to have Kidman and myself work the Armstrongs in a tag match. And they were trying to transition Saturday night to being more geared towards developing younger talent and things of that nature. And I remember just asking, that it's awesome we're going to work the Armstrongs, but are we doing anything other than just a match? And they were like, no, nothing's scheduled. I go, why don't they do something where we're cutting a promo, or they're cutting a promo, and we, I think this was what was talked about. Have the Armstrongs cut a promo, and me and Kidman will do the kind of flock mentality thing and walk right through the middle of it. And it'd be like, hey, what the hell's wrong with you guys? And we're like, what? Just have that whole, it's about us, not about you. We don't care you're cutting a promo. I mean, that would have taken no time at all and made a little interest for, they could have shot that early and aired it, and then that could have led to a match, which none of it happened. But it's stuff like that, and I think that's where I kind of got some of that early on from Raven, and just going, hey, you want to do stuff that has meaning. It's not about winning and losing. I don't care about losing as long as it makes sense, and it's going somewhere, and it's going to mean something, and it has some value to it.
Exactly. So you really have to find ways to make it work so that everything culminates in whatever plans are laid out for the future, and
right,
and how they're doing it. Okay, so you got to work a variety of different opponents during your time in WCW. Who were some of your favorite opponents that you got to work against over the years?
Working with Goldberg, that was great. We both were really green, but he was so over. That was one of the things that, I mean, it was Bill. I mean, he's up there with Rock and Austin as far as being over, and I mean, he was the most over guy in WCW, or as over as Hulk or any of the other, Kevin Nash, Hulk, maybe even more so. So that was awesome. We had good matches. They were what they were. They were pretty much, he's eating up, and we were setting him up because this whole thing was, I think he had to run through the whole flock to get to Raven, kind of thing. But in terms of just matches, I got to work Booker T. Never worked him on TV, but worked him on some house shows, which was really cool. That was great. It was really easy. I thought we worked really well together. And loved working Benoit. That was my second match on Nitro. It was probably my fourth match in my life. So it was really early on, and worked him on house shows. Loved working with Chris. Loved his style. Um, Liked working with Paige because I was familiar with Paige, so I knew a lot of stuff Paige was going to do. Those were good matches. We did a lot. We did some on Nitro, some on Thunder, some on Saturday night tapings. So a couple house shows we worked. And then I want to say probably this probably be out of nowhere or not out of nowhere, kind of out of left field. But Steve McMichael, Mongo, um, just from the aspect that um, he it could be a challenge working with him, and I think that was the thing that I really relished in those matches. Um, and I think that was a growth period for me, because even though he had been wrestling longer than I had, I laid out every match that he and I did. And like I said, he had more experience than I at the time, but I think I was just more developed in terms of like how to lay out a match. I mean, he really didn't. I don't know. He just wasn't at that structural point of laying out a match. He would input stuff and on kind of some ideas, but the basis of it. I mean, I was like, I'm not going to do anything he can't do. I want to keep these matches simple, do what he does best. That's just going to be brute strength type stuff. Have him sell. I'm just going to get on him, have him sell a lot, and then make a big comeback and put me in the finish. But yeah, it was fun to have those matches with him, because I really forced me to have to dig down deeper, um, and go a little more. To me, it was easier working with like a Booker T or a Chris Benoit type guy than it was a Mongo. And Mongo was just he would get really nervous, and he was just that guy. I think like some of the guys coming out of football had a hard time transitioning to, hey, because he was a strong dude, and I mean, when he grabbed you or he threw you, you were going, and sometimes there was nothing you could do about it. And I want to say the probably the best match we had, we didn't even go over the match. We were in the back, and actually I was with Brian Adams at the time, because we traveled together a good bit, and we were there with our bags, and the show was getting ready to start, and we were getting ready to leave because we weren't booked on the show. And Arn Anderson comes up to me and goes, "Oh, kid, I really hate to do this to you, but they've added you and Mongo, like it was second or third segment on the show. I think they had some video package, and there was an interview with Mean Gene and Bret Hart, and then it was me and Steve to open the show for a match." And we were going live, like literally going live in like 5 minutes. And I just remember Steve coming up, and he was just like white as a ghost. And he was just like, "Well, what are we going to do? What are we going to do?" I said, "Well, right now, let's just get dressed." And so we're getting dressed, and he was worried about what we're going to do. I said, "Listen, we're not going to do anything. We're just going to call it. I'm going to call it in the ring. We don't have time to do anything. I'll just call it in the ring." I said, "The only thing we'll do I said, as we're both sitting there getting dressed, I said, look, Lodi's going to be out with me. He will distract you. When he does, I'll jump you from behind, and then we'll just go from there." And I said, for a finish, I said, when I tell you to hit me with the tackle, hit me with your tackle. Go to slam me, I'll slip behind you, duck my punch, and boot me and put me in your finish. That's all you have to remember. Just remember, you're going to get distracted by Lodi, and then what I just said, that whole run through for the finish. So just remember that. And I was one of the best matches we had. Amazing. I think he just was more relaxed. He wasn't thinking as much. And we just went out and, I want to say the the only mess up he had, I think it was this match. I went to shoot him off the ropes, and I told him to watch my clothesline, and he just reversed and threw me in. And just threw me in so hard and fast, like I couldn't get my feet up under me. Kind of hit the ropes weird. I think I held on because I was like, I didn't know what he was going to do because he didn't say anything. But other than that, it was a good match. We did this thing. I think we were both on our knees and just kind of slugging, throwing punches on each other, and it was super organic.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's how I learned with Chris at the Powerplant. When we did matches, he and I would get in the ring and we would just do a match. I mean, we'd go 20, 30 minutes and just, he would be, he'd be getting stuff in, then I'd turn the tide on him, then I'd start getting stuff in, and we just that's kind of really where I learned to do that. And that was really my favorite way to do matches, just kind of go with it and call it as you're going.
Yeah, I mean, got to improvise as much as you can, and so having those memories for all these years seems like you had such a great career. And how long were you with WCW for? Did you stay until the end? Did you go to WWE when they got bought out?
No, I started with WCW in '96, and I left there like it was the end of '98 into I think '99, or just getting ready to turn '99. I want to say I was right there. Let's see. Sid Vicious had come back to WCW. I think Jeff Jarrett had come back. It was right. It wasn't long after. Who was the writer that was with Vince and WWF? It came
Ed
there.
Ferrara.
Vince Ferrara and the other guy.
Ed Ferrara, yeah, and Vince Russo.
And Vince Russo. They had just gotten there, but I'd been off TV. Because when the Flock split, I was supposed to be off TV for 90 days and get repackaged into another character, another gimmick, which didn't happen. And that 90 days turned into like about half a year. So I was like, when they were transitioning and kind of going, I didn't have anything to do with WCW. I was at home. I was working out. They wouldn't let us do indie shows. So I'd go down to the Powerplant and work some matches down there. And I was just training, staying in shape, but they started flying me out to do vignettes for this character that I had come up with, because they gave me no guidance in terms of, this is the idea we have for you. I mean, there was nothing. Flock's done. I was just kind of like dead in the water. I was just told, if you do have a character in mind, you have something you want to do, and I was like, yeah, this is what. And they're like, great. And they flew me out numerous times for over a period of like 2.5 months, 3 months, somewhere in there. But I'd fly there, and they were like, oh, well, we ran out of time to do any vignettes, things like that. And I'd turn around, and almost a lot of times on this very same day, I'd fly right back home. And that happened a lot. And so I started just seeing the writing on the wall at that point with the company, just not with me, but with the company. I mean, NWO had started to, that tsunami that was NWO, and was really starting to get watered down. And you could just see they were like, I guess, searching for stuff. And I don't think guys really cared, as long as they were taking care of themselves, because guys were getting paid a lot of money no matter what. And there just wasn't a lot of creative stuff going on. And I was like, I got to get off of this ship really quick. And that's when I reached out to WWF, and I think I signed with them in like October of '98, I think. So I was with WCW for a couple years. and signed with WWF. I believe it was like October of '98.
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating whenever you pitch ideas and it doesn't work out, because you're using all that energy and time to create something new and to not have it happen. I mean, it's devastating, but you just got to pull yourself back up and try again. And we're in the business for so long. Outside of wrestling, I know you've done a lot of motivational speaking. Talk to me about what made you decide to go into that and any kind of venues you feel were some of your favorites.
On the speaking part of it, I was always big. I mean, it started back with me in football, just doing stuff through me progressing in football through high school. I was like a top 100 player in the nation, a parade All-American. We would go and talk to, even at that point, we'd go to Shriners hospitals and see kids and go there. And that I think that was the real start for me. Like doing that and seeing, like, a lot of those kids, they had no idea who any of us were going to these hospitals a lot of times. They just knew we were, these all-star football players. And, that you're going into these places like Shriners and all the hardships that these kids are going through. And it, not only did it put things in perspective for me, because I know I was like, man, you're whining and crying about having to practice and you're tired and you're this and that. And you're going and seeing these kids that are battling cancer and the courage these kids have and putting a smile on their face, like when you come in, and it's like if you can suspend that for just a little while, that really hit me and really touched me, and seeing the effect you can have on somebody else. And like I said, not only that, just personally putting things in perspective for me, it was like, it's not too tough, man. You know what? Things could always be worse. I can run, I can go out here and do these practices, and it's either cold or it's hot, it's raining, it's dry, it's this or that. And this kid would give anything to get out of this hospital bed just to be able to go do just a fraction of what I could do. And so at that point, I was like, I shouldn't be complaining about anything ever. And, at that point, I was just like, I always told God, I was like, things could always be worse. Thank you for everything you've given me, but most importantly, thank you for the things you haven't. And that kind of started me down that road. And then when I got into wrestling, obviously, I started doing some speaking engagements and just talking to high school kids. And then after wrestling, got into that and just really talking to them, just my story, because I've got an even bigger story with football in terms of things I went through to have to go and accomplish what I accomplished, and just about never giving up, and whatever your dreams are, lock into them, go. When people tell you that you can't, go and do it. I mean, I would tell them, I was like, my high school guidance counselor told me I should go to a trade school, because I'd never make it in college because of my grades in high school. And I went on to college, and my first year I had a 3.4 grade average. College was just more conducive to my abilities and how you study compared to high school. And I was like, don't ever tell me I can't do something. It's what I want. I'm going to do it. And, just conveying that message and listening to your parents and listen to your coaches. And biggest thing is believing in yourself. Because even coming out of, my parents and a lot of people, a lot of family friends, and were really like, thought I was crazy to leave football, even after the injury, to go do wrestling. And I was like, this is where I feel like I need to go. This is what my gut's telling me to do. I feel like I'm being pulled in this direction. And some people were like, oh, you're not going to ever get on TV. And I go, well, I won't if I don't ever try. That's for sure. And I was completely confident in myself and my abilities. And I felt like I had what it would take to do that. So I try to correlate that into talking to young people about just, find whatever your goal is, uh, and finding how you can progress towards that goal each and every day. You know, don't think in terms so much of the end. Think of what you got to do now to get there. Like me, and I use myself as an example because I didn't do a lot of things that I should have in high school to make my ultimate dream in playing college football, major college football, come true. I had to do it the hard way. I thought more about the end result as opposed to, man, you need grades. And at that time, football had shifted from, it was Brian Bosworth had just come out with his book and told all the stuff in college how they don't, you get paid for watching the sprinklers at the practice fields go off, and you don't have, and honestly at that time you didn't have to have any grades to go play college football. And that really started to shift at that time, and I was right there in that crux of that, and I kind of got caught up in that because, like I said, I wasn't this big student. It wasn't because I wasn't smart enough. I could pass the test. I just hated doing homework. Like, it just didn't make sense to me. I was like a C and B test taker, but because of my homework and the averages that they would do, I had bad grades.
And you were able to turn all that around, and you've had such an incredible career. Now, yeah, I mean, life is all about taking risks, and you got to do what your heart tells you to do. And if you're motivated by something and you have dreams, you pursue them and work as hard as you can to keep going. And so, what is it about giving back to the community and sharing your story with others that gives you the most joy?
Well, just it is, I think it's like with a lot of people, it's like, when I taught, if you can reach one or two people, out of a group you're talking to, because I talked to a lot of like sports teams, like baseball teams, football teams, and it just wasn't about, because not all those guys are going to be able to go play at the next level. So it just wasn't about going and doing your sport. It was like you need to start thinking in terms of where you're going to go, what do you want to do, and how do you attain that. And just you can't let anything stop you. And you're going to have more failures than successes. You're going to have setbacks. You're going to think there's no way I can go through. So like, when you're telling people this, if there's just one person that can learn and take, from the things you've experienced and apply that and use that and go on to be successful, that was the biggest thing for me. I enjoyed doing, and I was like, it was just giving back. I got a story I want to tell, just not for me, but a story that I can tell that I think could help somebody else. And go, look, it doesn't matter how great you were. I was everything, all American, this and that. And, I had to go and re-enroll in high school after I graduated, which is a whole nother story. But, I had to swallow a lot of pride when you're like, a guy at your high school that's like one of the top, or the top athlete there. And you've accomplished the things you've accomplished. So whether you're an athlete or whether you're in academics or whatever you're wanting to go do, you're going to have these setbacks, and there's going to be things you're going to have to do that you don't really want to do. But if you want it bad enough, you'll find a way to do it.
Exactly. It's all about the passion.
That's it. How design, it's just like with the Powerplant. That's kind of what they did. They wanted to see who had the passion, who had the drive, who was willing to go through the hell that was that Powerplant trial to be a professional wrestler.
Yeah.
Life's very much the same way. Very seldom are things just given to you. When they are, you always tend to take them for granted. We all do. It's just human nature. But when you had to work for it and strive, and you've had ups and downs and trials and tribulations, to be able to reach out and do that kind of stuff, and speaking to young kids and having some of them listen and taking some of that advice and taking your experiences and be able to apply that to their everyday life and maybe go on and do something is really cool. Like I said, I would have liked to have gotten further into the charity stuff and like Make-A-Wish and things like that. I did some of that stuff, but not nearly as much as I wanted to, because that was really big. Like I said, that was really the springboard for me, being young. Like it started for me, like I said, in high school.
And, I am sure you've gotten a lot of people that have come up to you after your speeches and have gotten, feedback from the people that you've talked to. It's really a no better feeling in the world when you know that you've made a difference in someone's life.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just not. It shouldn't be just about you. You should want to be able to give back, and one is just is to help somebody else go on to be successful or to have success, is good. And I mean, it's a good feeling to know you, obviously, that, yeah, if you hear somebody come back, go, oh, you said something and it really resonated with me and I was able to push through. I had an injury. I didn't think I was going to be able to come back, or I had this setback or that setback. Yeah, I mean, that is rewarding, and hearing that for sure.
Making the difference one step at a time. Scott, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on to the show. It means a lot to me and to my listeners and viewers that are watching this on YouTube. Where can people find out more about you on social media?
I'm in my infancy still with social media. I just got on Facebook after 21 something years, just like a month ago. But I'm on Facebook just under Scott Vick, not under Sick Boy. But the page is pretty much geared to Sick Boy and some elements of my life other than Sick Boy. And then Instagram, and on Instagram it's Scott WCW WWF, or it's yes. I think those are underscored and then Sick Boy.
All right. Well, thanks again, Scott, and you're more than welcome to come back.
Yeah. Hey, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
Okay. You too.
Bye-bye.
This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.